I'm Jeremy Wade, biologist and extreme angler. From the depths of the Amazon to the suburbs of Berlin, I've been busy tracking down the world's most frightening freshwater fish and uncovering the truth about their evil reputations.
It's taking line, that's taking line.
I've tangled with man-eating catfish.
This is the one that goes after people as well.
Swum with piranhas and grappled with ferocious gar. My next assignment is a beast of terrifying power.
It's spinning the boat, it's spinning the boat. It's taking the boat down.
Some people say this is the world's biggest freshwater fish. If my line jams, it could pull me in. This is a monster that can stab you with an 8-inch bayonet. Its flesh-dissolving venom has no known antidote. Just catching this fish will test me to the limit. But my aim isn't simply to measure one of these giants. I also want to know where it lives and how dangerous it really is.
I have a feeling this could be my toughest challenge yet. Here it comes, here it comes. I think we're going to need a bigger boat.
In just the past few years, a strange and possibly deadly creature has come out of the shadows. I've read dramatic accounts of epic 6-hour battles and heard that this predator can inflict horrendous wounds. Some people are even claiming that this little-known beast is the world's biggest freshwater fish. The name of this monster is Hymantura chowphrya, the giant freshwater stingray. Shaped like a UFO, this Southeast Asian giant is said to grow to 16 feet long and 7 feet across. Some sources put its weight at over 1,300 pounds. Even this basic information is very hard to verify. It all sounds incredibly impressive, but how much of this stuff can I really believe? It seems that no one knows how big this thing actually grows or why. I've encountered river stingrays before, 1,000 miles up the Amazon. Here they're known as wish-you-were-dead fish because of their agonizingly painful sting. But these stingrays are relatively small. The thought of a 16-footer sends a real shiver down my spine. These are some examples of the wounds caused by marine stingrays, and typically what you're talking about is a very deep puncture wound, normally to the foot or the lower leg, but sometimes higher up. And the people generally talk about this as being extremely painful. And as well as the actual immediate wound, you have this very long-lasting effect of, tissue necrosis. I mean, it's just a very painful, messy wound. This is the barb from a stingray, actually quite a small one, but you can get the general idea. The barb sits on top of the tail, and what it does, it whips it over its back, a bit like a scorpion, or it can also whip it round to either side. And, looking at this, you can just see just how wickedly sharp that point is. The second thing is you've got these grooves running underneath, and that is for delivering the venom from the gland at the base here, but also for making it a more efficient stabbing weapon. You'll see exactly the same thing on a bayonet or a combat knife. And the third thing, looking closely at this, you can see these serrations along the edge here. And what that does, it works on the same principle as an arrowhead. It goes in very cleanly, but, it's going to make a real mess when you pull it out. Imagine being stabbed by a large steak knife, only this one's smeared with poison and it really shreds your flesh when it comes out. Yeah. I've heard that the giant freshwater stingray has a barb that is 8 inches long, which is a really sobering thought. I'm quite curious to have a look at one of those, hopefully not too close, and it's certainly not something I want to bring back as a souvenir in my leg. My quest for the giant freshwater stingray takes me to Southeast Asia. First, to Thailand's capital, Bangkok. Surprisingly, this huge and potentially lethal monster lives right under our noses. Normally, when you're looking for underwater monsters, you're thinking hundreds of miles upriver in the middle of remote wilderness, but not this time. I'm literally taking a short cab ride from the airport and I'm slap bang in the middle of Bangkok and just a few miles away from the sea. Even more incredibly, scientists only discovered the giant freshwater stingray a mere 20 years ago. Its species name, Chao Phraya, comes from this very river, running through the heart of Bangkok. And yet this monster in our midst is still cloaked in mystery. I want to find out how big it really gets. And I also want to know how far this animal travels inland. In most people's eyes, stingrays are sea creatures, not river fish. Barely an hour's drive from the capital, I track down a story that puts me on edge and reminds me that the venom of this creature has no known antidote. Four months ago, local fisherman Pung San was surprised to hook one of these rarely seen giants. For people here, such a huge fish is a potentially lucrative catch. What happened, the stingray came to the side of the river and then wouldn't come any further, actually basically got buried in the mud. So what he had to do was actually get in the water, and it was about chest deep, and then completely go underwater with a rope, feed the rope through the spiracles, the water intake of the stingray, not the rope. He'd managed to pull it off the bottom, and it was actually as it rose in the water that he then felt this pain. The wound was actually just numb to start with. And then just this incredible pain, and in fact so painful that he collapsed from the intensity of the pain and actually had to crawl the remaining distance to the house. This was something that wasn't going to go away on its own. It did need urgent medical treatment. As he races for help, Pung San continues to bleed heavily and almost passes out with pain. With no antidote available, his chances of survival are anyone's guess. By the time he arrives for treatment, his condition is deteriorating fast. What happens at the medical centre? His heart rate spikes alarmingly, and despite anaesthetic, he remains doubled up in agony. The wound, in fact, is no more than a glancing blow, and yet the pain proves so intense that Pung San is unable to work for the next 4 weeks. He still has the very barb that impaled him. Can I have a look at that? Right. Well, seeing that really does concentrate the mind. Absolutely vicious point on that, and these horrible barbs down the side. And I think, you know, this is a fish I've got to really treat with some respect. Evidently, even a quick jab from this fish can land you in serious trouble. Whatever it contains, the venom seems every bit as potent as in marine stingrays. Okay, so that actually went in about getting on for 3 inches there, but it was at an oblique angle. And so although he probably doesn't feel very lucky to have had this experience, but if that had gone in straight and if that had punctured the femoral artery, you know, that could have killed him. Tragically, Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, was not so lucky. He was struck clean through the heart and died. While this freak accident happened way out at sea, the chilling fact about the stingray I'm looking for is that it swims up rivers into some of the most densely populated parts of Southeast Asia. And it's in these crowded waterways that I'm about to try and meet this monster, face to face. I'm in Thailand in search of the giant freshwater stingray, a rarely seen monster that lives in the midst of millions of people. I've already met a man who's been stung by this beast and who lived to tell the tale. Now I'm about to try and catch one for myself. I head to a town called Samut Songkhram, 50 miles west of Bangkok and just a few miles inland. This tidal stretch of river harbours some of the largest freshwater stingrays ever caught.
This fish, the giant stingray, was only described by scientists just 20 years ago, but presumably the people on these rivers have known about it probably for centuries. The problem the scientists had was just getting their hands on enough specimens to study. And what this means is that either it's a very, very rare animal or it's just very, very hard to get one out of the river.
To try and catch one of these elusive giants, I'm teaming up with an experienced fishing crew, led by stingray enthusiast Boy. Live bait is essential. Its muscle movements will give off the electrical signals that stingrays use to detect their prey. These animals are active hunters, prowling over the riverbed in search of a meal. Their faces are packed with sophisticated sensors that penetrate the mud and murk. Potentially 8 times my size, this fish is in a different league from anything I've tackled before. It calls for the heaviest gear. I'm using ultra-strong braided line with 30 yards of thick nylon monofilament at the business end. To take some of the strain, I'll be wearing a harness. Good news for my arms, but if the line digs in and jams, I could be pulled in.
You know, normally what would happen, the fish can't take line and the line will break, but when you're using a 160-pound line, that line isn't going to break. I'm going to go over the side or the boat's going to flip.
After Pung San's account, I'm anxious to avoid this nightmare scenario.
If that's dug in for some reason, I've got to have plan B. I'm going to be strapped to that. I'm going to have a harness locked into that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to have a knife in my pocket. If I'm going over the edge, knife comes out and just cut that line. You know, the fish can go. I don't care about the fish. It's better than drowning.
With everything prepped, we head for the chosen spot. A deep pocket in the riverbed they call Area 51, because, as they say round here, it's crawling with aliens. My battle boat is rigged with 4 big game rods, including my own Marlin-class outfit that I've brought for the occasion. If a line goes, I'm ready to hunker down, strap in, and lock horns. To improve the odds, boys put out a dozen or so extra lines, tied to floats. This isn't regarded as true sport fishing, but my mission here isn't to beat my chest or win prizes. I simply want to see one of these incredible animals in the flesh. And within minutes, there's something big mauling our baits.
That didn't run off with the bait, but there's definitely been a stingray on that. Something's come along and actually crushed that there, but then instead of taking the bait, it's actually spat it out.
Stingrays have crushing mouthparts that leave an unmistakable imprint.
Disappointing in one sense, but also good news. I mean, I'm in the right place. They are definitely down there.
The next bite's a clean take, and we're game on. As I race to clip in, something powerful rips out several feet of line, then decides to tow us upriver.
It's spinning the boat, it's spinning the boat. Pulling the boat, it's taking the boat down. I think we're going to need a bigger boat.
The venom of the giant freshwater stingray is most like that of which other killer? Is it A, rattlesnake, B, black widow, or C, box jellyfish? The venom of the giant freshwater stingray is most like that of which other killer? The answer's A. As in rattlesnakes, the stingray's venom contains a potent enzyme that attacks your flesh. I'm on a mission to get face to face with a giant freshwater stingray. 50 miles from Thailand's capital, Bangkok, I've finally got a monster on the end of my line. But I'm up against a beast as big as a bear.
It's spinning the boat. It's taking the boat down.
I've never fought a fish like this before.
Okay. Right. Ah. Oh, yeah, that is... Oh, look at that rod. That rod is now springing back slowly. This line shouldn't go. The rod's always a bit of an unknown quantity. Ah.
It's my own Marlin-class outfit taking the strain.
Just have visions of this rod suddenly shattering. and getting a face full of fiberglass and carbon fibre. That's pulling down, that's pulling down. There is quite a real possibility of this thing pulling me in.
I feel like I'm trying to pull the plug out of the river. All I can do is dig in and keep the pressure on. After 30 exhausting minutes, I haven't gained an inch. This isn't like any fishing I've ever experienced, and I start to wonder if I can cope.
Most fish, it's all over in 5-10 minutes, half an hour at the extreme. You know, this in fresh water, something like this is just unheard of.
With neither of us willing to give in, it becomes a war of attrition. Give or take the odd foot of line, we're in total deadlock.
I've just been told it's 1 hour, 5 minutes so far. We're into about round 8 now. Oh, look at that, look at that, look at that. It's taking line. That is taking line fast. This thing does not like being bullied. I just decided I was going to, you know, show it who's boss. And the fish is saying, no, no, you're not the boss. Oh, that's about half an hour's worth of work has just gone. I've just gained about 3 foot of line and it's just taken that. But sometimes when it does that, the fish then takes a bit of a breather and I can maybe capitalise.
For another 40 minutes, we slug it out in a grueling tug of war.
Right, I've got the initiative. Whoa!
Then, after almost 2 hours,
Whoa!
a breakthrough.
I think it's come off the bottom. There was a sudden sort of break of suction. It does feel like it. It's actually, yeah, that's definitely coming my way a lot faster than it has done at any time until now.
My arms are cramping up and I'm close to breaking point. But I've finally got the measure of this gigantic fish.
It's about 1.5 meters below the surface. Here it comes, here it comes.
I'm just seconds away from seeing what must surely be one of the world's greatest river monsters.
Right, look at that. That is, the rod went. The rod went. I actually saw the fish. We nearly had it in the net, but an almighty bang.
My gear was built to deal with sharks and marlin. Whatever broke this rod could have weighed as much as 700 pounds.
I thought it was my shoulder going for a minute, but it was actually the rod.
Not too long.
Rod's too long. Yeah.
To the net.
Oh dear, that was so close. The fish nearly came in. We saw it. It was up off, eventually after 2 hours something. It was off the bottom. We were trying to get the net round it. The rod went, and the fish escaped. It wasn't quite in the net.
And to make matters worse, the fight has left me with a torn bicep.
All that suffering. I saw the fish, and it's all that for nothing. All that. Oh.
It's score 1 to the Stingray. But my close encounter with this giant has got me wondering, why does this creature grow so huge? Perhaps it's no coincidence that the rivers here are also home to another gigantic fish. Growing up to 9 feet long and weighing over 600 pounds, the Mekong giant catfish is a Class A monster. Conceivably, the stingray's immense size could be a defense strategy. To get a close-up look at a giant Mekong, I've come to a stocked fishing lake. These animals are all but extinct in the wild.
Yeah, this is a strong fish. But I'm lying great against that.
This one's giving me the runaround.
Huge tail on that.
It is probably just a small one.
Very powerful, sort of throbbing fight. You can almost feel the beats of the tail.
My catch is only 1/10 the size of what they can reach. Nonetheless, I can see it's no ordinary catfish. And being a catfish, it's got no scales, but what's interesting as well, although it's a catfish, it hasn't got feelers, it hasn't got barbels. And the other thing that's actually interesting here is there's no teeth in there. There's not even anything approaching a sort of one of these raspy pads in there. Although this does grow very big, I mean, well over 600 pounds, it's not really a predator. This thing's a vegetarian, it's a gentle giant. If I'm looking down from here, I can't see any eyes. The eyes are actually on the underside of the head there, very close to the corner of the mouth. And that's something that just points to it being a bottom feeder, just sort of rooting around vegetable matter on the bottom. So this gummy oddball isn't a killer, which leaves me still wondering why the stingrays here have evolved into such giants. I've yet to see a Chao Phraya stingray, dead or alive. But with Thailand's biggest fish market just down the road, I'm back on the hunt. This is a vast clearinghouse for everything that comes out of the sea, for hundreds of miles around. Stingrays first evolved in the oceans, and it could be that the giant freshwater stingray occurs in the sea as well as rivers.
So we have got rays here. I'm finding some rays. That's not the one I'm after. This is an eagle ray of sorts. Yet another species of ray. These are all marine species, but I mean the thing that this is bringing home, there's a huge diversity of ray species, lots of variations on the theme.
Stingrays are clearly one of nature's more successful designs. But their origins, some 200 million years ago, may come as a surprise.
Quick lesson in evolution here. Here's a shark, and that is the classic shark mouth, classic shark teeth, shark tail. Come to this fish here, shark tail, shark dorsal fin. But something very different going on at the front end of the fish. It's flattening, it's becoming squashed. Let's flip it over, and suddenly we've got a very different type of mouth there. Crushing plates, but very different. Gills here on the bottom of the body. Come to this fish here, and here we have same mouth, same gills. Flip it over, and there we have it. A ray is basically a flattened shark with this long tail.
This flattened body plan, with the eyes and water intakes on top, is an adaptation for life on the ocean floor. Whatever its origins, the monster I'm after continues to elude me. After 3 hours of trawling, I haven't found a single specimen. Back at Area 51, our lines are set, and I'm hoping my luck's about to change. As we wait for a bite, Boy tells me an unnerving story.
The heart here,
Yes.
make my heart is come bam, right at the waist.
And that's the scar of it now, is
Yeah,
it?
just here, right?
Yeah. I've just been asking Boy about stingray wounds, this kind of thing, and he told me a story about how a small one just scratched him on the finger, and he thought that's going to be fine. 15 minutes later, the entire left side of his body's gone numb, the heart is pounding away. He was actually thinking, blimey, this could be like a snake bite, you know, this could be fatal, but actually, after 3 hours, it passed, and I'm just thinking, yeah, you've just got to obviously be so careful when handling these things.
With plenty of floats out, it's not long before I'm back in the ring. This time I've learnt my lesson and switched to a shorter rod. It's my arm that worries me. I'm not sure it'll take another 12 rounds. To my relief, it's barely 20 minutes before this one starts to surface.
Right, fish is coming up. Fish is coming up. Okay, you ready, boys? So we got the fish here in the net.
I've finally caught one, my first Chao Phraya stingray. I keep well clear though. Until its sting is strapped up, this fish is still a loaded gun.
So this is just binding the barb, which sits in a bit of a groove, and that is binding the barb to the tail.
Once it's disarmed, we head for the bank.
Most of the body of the fish is actually in the water. I haven't really properly seen this fish. I'm really looking forward now to getting it in and having a proper look at this animal.
I've finally caught a giant freshwater stingray, and I'm about to see this animal in the flesh for the first time. This species is said to top 1,300 pounds. Yet, as I now discover, this is only half the story.
We've got a male. This one's a male.
The entire team is on hand to help measure and weigh the fish.
So this one's about 4.5 foot across. It's not particularly big as they go, but it is very big for a male.
Its sex explains why this one came up so fast. Astonishingly, females can be up to 8 times bigger than this full-grown male.
We've weighed it accurately, which is quite a hard thing to do. We've done it very quickly. 175 pounds, around 80 kilos.
For sheer weight, this is one of the largest fish I've ever caught. And yet, incredible as it sounds, it's a mere minnow.
It's been out of the water long enough now. I think, here we go, definitely time to get it back in the water.
This is an animal that completely warps your normal sense of scale.
So is it coming under here? Yeah. All right.
Despite catching a good-sized male, I know that my quest is far from over. Since it was first scientifically described, there have been occasional reports of large chow phraya stingrays from far inland. I'm leaving the tidal waterways around Bangkok and heading up country. Could this be where I'll finally find my monster? 150 miles north, at a town called Nakhon Sawan, I meet a fisherman with a tantalizing tale.
And this was what, just here in Nakhon Sawan?
มันกินอยู่ที่เดียวหน้าบ้านนี่ทั้งนั้นเนี่ยเขาไม่ไปต่างถิ่น
Right, this is interesting. This is a recent capture. This was only a few months ago. I'm imagining that wasn't easy to get out. How long to get this out of the river?
อ๋อโดยมากกลางวันทั้งนั้นเนี่ยแต่ตอนบ่ายก็ใช้เรือ2 ลำ 2 คนหลายชั่วโมง
Clearly a very big fish, this. Apparently 320 kilos, which converts to something like 700 pounds. Seriously large fish. And the story is it took 10 people in 2 boats 4 hours to get it in, and it actually dragged the boat well over a mile during that time. So I think a bit of an epic battle and a big fish.
Looking at the man's tackle, I'm amazed he got it in at all.
So it's sprayed under it. Ah, we got a video clip someone took. You know, this is obviously big local news. There's people all around.
I'm no stranger to fishermen's yarns, but the figure of around 700 pounds does ring true. This fish was cut up and weighed accurately for market. It seems they only kept one piece of it.
Ooh. Is this from the same fish?
Yeah, same fish.
ตัดแล้วนะเนี่ยตัดเงี้ยงไปแล้วนะเนี่ย
Ooh, right, okay.
Even with its tip broken off, this barb is by far the biggest I've seen. If there are giant stingrays here, then how much further upriver do they go? I'm starting to wonder, could these creatures have penetrated deep into the river systems, just like their distant Amazon cousins? Getting on for 3,000 miles long, the mighty Mekong is Southeast Asia's greatest river. Until just the last 150 years, its upper reaches remained largely cut off from the outside world. Even today, it still feels like a land of secrets. If anyone can help me unlock them, it's the fishermen who make their living along its banks. I'm now 1,000 miles upriver, and I wonder if anyone here will know about the creature I'm looking for. I wonder if you fishing here see any caben.
ได้ครับเคยได้10 กว่าปีขึ้นปีที่แล้วขึ้นหลัง
The big size caben, or these were small fish? Any really big ones?
ประมาณขนาดนี้ป่ะเสียน้อยมันจับบ่ได้มันแค่แบบว่ามันเข้าบุงเขานี่มันไล่มันเนี่ยมันเป็นไล่มันทั้งมันขันมอง
What happened there was that the stingray got wrapped up in the net, and this big one just broke its way through.
It sounds promising, but I want a positive ID. Will they recognize the fish from Nakhon Sawan?
Same fish?
เดี๋ยวเสียน้อยขนาดนี้บ่เพิ่นถามนี่ถ้ารุ่นนี้นี่สิประมาณได้อยู่100กิโลอยู่มีครับเนี่ย
So the same fish as was here?
ต้องรุ่นนี้ล่ะโขงเขานี่เดี๋ยวเบิ่งก็ฮู้
Right, this is very interesting. So I've shown the picture of the ray that was caught at Nakhon Sawan, and not only is it the same species, it was also about the same size. And this was a big animal here, so that's a very, very encouraging bit of information, and it does bode well. You know, I'm going to be putting a bait in water where these things are.
With a confirmed eyewitness account, I'm eager to take a look for myself. I'm at a place called Nong Khai, right on the border with Laos.
25 years ago, I was actually in this very same bit of river, a little bit upstream, in fact, and I was arrested by the police on suspicion of spying, and that cut short my entire trip. End of fishing, end of everything.
They locked me up for the night and confiscated all my photos. This time round, I'm using some sophisticated sonar equipment to scan the riverbed.
What I'm doing now, I'm looking down into the water. I've got the sonar here, I've got about 20 foot of water, and I'm trying to get a sort of a mental picture of the underwater geography as my first step in looking for the stingrays. I've actually got fish symbols straight away, but they're middle of the water. They're unlikely to be stingrays, although if there's something close to the bottom, it could be a ray. I do think that they don't spend all the time necessarily just stuck right down. I think sometimes they do actually rise off maybe 3 or 4 feet and glide away.
I'm convinced there are giant stingrays down here. But before I can unpack my rod, there's a nasty surprise. I'm in Thailand in search of the giant freshwater stingray. I fought and lost a real monster and landed a 175-pound male. Now, I followed the trail of this obscure beast to the Thai-Laos border, 1,000 miles up the Mekong. But before I can drop some baits into the river, the border police are onto me.
One problem about here, it's the border between two countries, Thailand and Laos. I might have possibly strayed over the border. I'm just going to carry on acting normal. I suppose I have got some sort of fairly high-tech looking gear on the boat. I'm spying on the bottom of the river. Okay. Go in. Okay. They probably don't see that many foreigners on the river here. Yeah, no, I've been waved into the side. They are still obviously very, very keen on keeping an eye on people who do things by this border. Border area is just very sensitive. That's another difficulty in trying to find this stingray here, the political situation.
I avoid jail at least, but I've no choice but to cut short my mission and head back south. I'm starting to wonder if I'll ever see this elusive monster. With one last throw of the dice, I return to Area 51. I'm back at Samut Songkram, where I've already caught a full-grown male and come painfully close to landing a truly massive female.
Let's get the rods on first.
This time the stakes are even higher. A team of scientists has arrived from Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok, and they're counting on me to provide a live stingray for their research. So little is known about this animal that every catch offers a rare chance to learn more. The scientists will settle for any stingray I can catch, but for me, this is all about seeing a true giant. To hell with my sore arm, I'm just hoping we've hooked a big female. I haven't come this far to miss out.
The thing is, I get the illusion now that I'm actually bringing the fish to me. What's actually happening is I'm taking the boat to the fish. The fish isn't actually going anywhere at the moment. What do you think, Cara? Is it a fairly good fish? Oh, it's just actually come off the bottom.
It's a worrying sign. Any monster worth its salt isn't going to give up so quickly. But then the stingray sinks back down, switches gear, and takes off upriver.
Oh! The drag on this reel is a little bit like a handbrake on a car, and I've got that almost fully on, and the fish is basically just taking that line. As I watch at the moment, it's just going out 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches.
After half an hour, my opponent stops for a breather, and I do the same. Then we're back for round 2, and it's looking like a big fish. 7 of us on 2 boats are dragged half a mile against the tide.
Right, it might surface, it might surface, it might surface over there.
Now I've got the fish on the ropes. For the first time, it feels like I'm driving the bus.
It's under the boat now, the fish is under the boat. I don't want to be lifting it while it's under the boat. I think it's coming this way again. Ah, it's just squashing my fingers, it's squashing my fingers. It's gone this way. It's gone this way. Okay. See the water boiling there? I haven't seen the fish yet. It's near the surface. I've just actually seen the lead. It's up in the water. I think we've got it. I think we've got it.
Back of the net. And this one looks pretty big, with an impressive 10-inch sting. Head of the science team, Dr. Ning, first secures the barb. She's asked me to help her collect some venom before we release the fish. It takes 6 people to heave this huge animal onto its front, into a position where we can measure it.
Okay, 180 centimetres to the base of the tail. Okay.
Head down forward, head down forward.
Go for the wingspan. 1 metre 91, nearly 2 metres across, 191.
At around 6 feet across and roughly 400 pounds, this female stingray is by far the largest river fish I've ever seen. Little did I realise she was about to produce the mother of all surprises.
Careful for the barb.
I'm in Thailand on the trail of the giant freshwater stingray,
Ah, it's just squashing my fingers, it's squashing my fingers.
and I've just landed the biggest fish of my life, a 400-odd pound female. But it seems we've got more than we bargained for.
So we've just got the fish into where the scientific team is. And literally as we sort of pulled it in the net, it's actually given birth to 2 live young.
Dr. Ning uses ultrasound to see if there are any more babies still inside. This is the first time scientists have been able to collect data from the fully formed pups of these stingrays.
On the ultrasound, there's the dark line, which is a cavity, and then there is a lighter shape inside it. So apparently that is the baby stingray still inside.
For me, this fish is a real first, and not just for its size.
I thought I had 1 fish on the end here. It looks like I've got 1, 2, 3, and another one inside. 4 fish, 1 hook.
Like many sharks, stingrays give birth to live young. When they emerged, these babies had what looked like a small cap on their stings, presumably to prevent internal injury to the mother. However, these safety catches soon drop off. Within minutes, these twins are armed and ready to defend themselves. It has been known before for these fish to eject young when they're caught, and if they are not very well developed, there's a worry that they're not going to survive. But the great thing about these fish here, these two, is that they are, pretty well fully developed. They might be being born a little bit early, but I think they are definitely going to survive in this river, particularly with that 2-inch prong on their tail. There's not a lot that's going to come near them. The scientists return to what I can only describe as the mothership. No one really knows why this animal grows so huge. Could size, I wonder, be the key that allows a marine fish to invade rivers? Most sea fish die quickly in fresh water. It's the larger ones that are best able to cope with the stress and survive. There's one final sample to extract.
Okay, I'm all in.
I just need to be careful.
Right, we're now going to take the toxin. Okay, I'll help you.
Collecting this thick, toxic mucus will help the scientists to discover in more detail how the venom works. It's time for me to bid farewell to this river monster. Though the jury's still out, if further research confirms that this fish does live exclusively in fresh water, then it probably is the biggest freshwater fish on the planet. What's certain is that this is the biggest and strangest catch of my life. Reunited with her babies, the mother stingray is set free, and she returns to the dark depths of her hidden world.
So there she goes. I think she's probably going to go back to all her friends with all these stories of alien abduction. They did experiments on me and all sorts. But personally, I feel like I'm the one who's seen the alien. I mean, just what an amazing, totally unfish-like fish. I mean, a real monstrous beast. Want more of the world's wildest, strangest and most terrifying freshwater horrors? Visit our website at animalplanet.com/rivermonsters.